Hey, I'm Courtney Waterman, your tutor. Lover of anime, manga, and math. And you just tuned into another session of Tutor Me Sempai. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're jumping into a 5th grade topic, rounding decimals. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'll be putting time codes in for this video in the description box below, so use that to skip ahead to whatever part of the video you think is most interesting. As always, if you have any questions about what we see today, or even your own homework, you can always visit my Facebook page at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. Today's video will have 2 parts, so leave a like, smash subscribe, and let's get started. Rounding your decimal numbers is going to be actually very similar to how we round whole numbers. The only thing you really need to know is what are your decimal place value names. If you have that down, then rounding your decimal numbers should be fairly simple. So let's say we had this number here, and you need to round this to the nearest hundredths. Well, if you don't know what the hundredths place value is, that's going to be pretty difficult. However, if you know that this is your hundredths place, then all we have to do is round this like we would a whole number. And remember, when we round our whole numbers, we look to the right of where we're trying to round, right? So if we're trying to round to the nearest, let's say hundredths, in this case, we look to the right, 1 decimal place to the right. And if it's 5 or higher, we round this up. If this is 4 or less, we leave this the same and we don't write anything else. So rounding this to the nearest hundredths is going to give us what? If you said 71 and 8 hundredths, you'd be correct. Because that is a 1, we don't round this up. We simply leave it the way it is, and we don't write any more decimal place values. We just leave it as is. But let's say we want to round this to the nearest thousandths. What are we going to do? Well, once again, if you don't know which one of these is your thousandths place, you're probably going to have a hard time. However, if you can identify that it's that place right there, simply look 1 place value to the right and see, is that 5 or higher? If it is, we're going to round this up. If it's 4 or less, we're going to leave it the same and write no more decimal place values. So if you're rounding this to the nearest thousandths, what is going to be the answer? If you said 71 and 82 thousandths, you'd be correct. Because that is a 5, we're going to round this 1 up to a 2. And once again, we don't write any other place values. Let's try one more example with this number. Let's say we want to round this whole number to the nearest 100 thousandths. Now, the first thing we have to do is identify which one of these place values is going to be our 100 thousandths. Is it going to be this one? No. Is it going to be this one? No. How about this one? Yes. This is going to be our 100 thousandths. And that's because that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. So if we're going to round to our nearest 100 thousandths, we need to start here at this 7. The next thing we do is look over 1 place value to the right, and we're going to check, is this going to be 5 or higher? If it is, we're going to round 7 up. If it's less than 5, we're going to keep 7 the same way. So is this greater than or equal to 5? Yes. 8 is going to be greater than 5, so we can round this 7 up, and then we're not going to write any more decimal places afterwards. So we're going to rewrite this as 7, 1, decimal point, 0, 8, 1, 5, 8. We're going to round 7 up to an 8, and we're not going to write any more decimal place values. And you read this as 71 and 8,158 hundred thousandths. There will be times where you're going to be asked to round your decimal numbers without being told what is the specific decimal place value you're rounding to. In those cases, they may ask you to simply limit how many decimal places your decimal number has. For example, they can say, give me an answer to 3 decimal places. Or they can say, give me your answer with an accuracy of 2 decimal places. In either case, you need to know that they're asking you to round your decimal number to a certain decimal place value. So let's look at an example in which we do exactly that. Here we want to give the answer to 2 decimal places. Which one of these, A, B, C, or D, is going to give us that? Well, if we need 2 decimal places, A is definitely not going to be it. That's 3 decimal places. And D is not going to be it. That's 1 decimal place. So we just are left with B and C. These two have 2 decimal places, but they're a little different, yet very close. Which one is going to be our answer? If you said C, you'd be correct. If you said B, what you might have done was simply cut off the last 3 decimal places, which in this case is going to be incorrect. We don't want to simply forget about the last decimal places. We want to round. If you're not rounding, then you may get the wrong answer. Since we want 2 decimal places, we start there and then we move 1 over to the right and we see this is a 9, which means that we have to round this 1 up to a 2, resulting in 0.42 or 42 hundredths. Let's look at one more example. Let's say for this example, we want to find the answer to 3 decimal places. Which one of these, A, B, C, or D, is going to give us the answer to 3 decimal places? If you said D, you'd be correct. We're going to start at our 3rd decimal place, look 1 over to the right, and we see it's a 9. However, by rounding this up because of that 9, we're going to have a chain reaction. All of these are 9. So we're going to pretty much force our rounding all the way to the whole number, making that 0 go to a 1. That's because rounding this 9 up to a 10 means that we have 1 that carries over, rounds that up to a 10, 1 that carries over, rounds that up to a 10, and we have a 1 that carries over to our whole. Thus, we have a 1 now. However, we need to have 3 decimal places. So we make an equivalent decimal by adding trailing zeros. If you chose C, you were just removing the rest of your number, which is not correct. If you chose B, you might have gotten confused and tried to make that 9 into a 0. That's not correct. And if you chose A, be careful. Your rounding resulted in something much less than our original number. So make sure you're checking your work. D is going to be our correct answer. So if you're ever rounding and it results in no more decimal place values, don't be afraid to add some trailing zeros. If your question tells you to have a certain amount of decimal places, you need to have those decimal places. So I hope you're able to follow along with today's examples, and I hope you now know how you can round your decimal numbers. But if you have any questions about what you saw today, or even your own homework, remember, you can always visit me on my Facebook page, @Tutor Me Sempai, and tell me all about it there. If you haven't done so already, remember to leave a like. It really helps the channel by letting YouTube know that you found the video helpful. And if you found the video helpful, so can someone else. So leave a like, hit the notification bell, smash the subscribe button, and share this video with a friend. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I'm really hoping this helped with your homework. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney, and this has been another session of Tutor Me Sempai.